This is the Garville Dry Docks in Greenock. This is where I lived and worked for most of my life. It's been a while since I walked down here for pleasure and not going to work. I moved to many yards and joiner shops during my working life, but for some strange reason I always found myself back in this dock working by the Clyde. Walking around the dock today brings back many memories. This is where the mansion used to be, and behind is the dry dock. The building behind is where the joiner shop used to be, but today I'm back revisiting where I grew up and spent a large part of my life. Like I said, this is where my house used to be. I lived in the Garville house right here in the middle of this island surrounded by the Clyde. The Garville house wasn't always in the docks. It was in a park, Garville Park. It was a mansion house. I believe it was built in 1777. The mansion had two other owners before being bought over by the Greenock Harbour Trust in 1868. This is where the changes to the landscape began. The trust started by building the dry dock, and it was opened in 1871. The picture shows the house still with some parkland and new dry dock behind. The mansion continued to be part of the new landscape for another 4 years before the beginning of the new dock began, with the first sod being dug in 1880. This picture was taken in August 1881, which shows the first stone being laid in the dock by Provost Dougal Campbell, who was accompanied by the various trade organisations. In the bottom of the picture you can see their banners. It wasn't until 1886 when the dock was officially opened by Provost Wilson. The first ship to enter the dock was the Otterburn, which was owned by another Provost of Greenock, Mr. Shankland. When I was a boy, this was all the sugar sheds here. There's all crans along here, where the crans used to lift the sugar off the ships, put it into a hopper, and then the lorries would take it from there, round into the shed, and the blowers would blow it up into big pyramids of sugar before it would go to the Tate and Lyle, the refinery, to be refined. And further down the quay, right down to where by the big cran, is where they used to be called the banana sheds. The banana boats used to come in there and unstock all their cargo into there with bananas. So we were never short of bananas or sugar. We always get plenty of brown sugar for tablet and things like that. Okay, navy boats, sugar boats, all kind of boats. Even the American Navy, when they were over, the frigates used to come in here and tie up here. In fact, you can see in one of the pictures a lady called Mrs. Adams. You can see her looking out the window, looking at them all, and all the sailors all lined up along the quay. The marina has made a big difference here, and I'd like to see something done with the sheds. When you look at Liverpool and places like that, they've done they've really developed them and turned them into something really good. Whereas here it's just a storage place now, you know. These sheds mean a lot. I have many memories of the boats and dock workers and the stories I used to hear when I was a boy. But looking closely now, you look at all the detail that's been put into that, all the cast iron workmanship that's been put into the building, the design of the cast iron doors, the pillars, some amount of work in it. You know, it was built to last, and obviously it is lasted. You know what I mean? You can see why these are A-listed buildings yet. You know, it's a pity nothing's been done with them. The only other thing that's not changed in the dock, when I can see it through all my life, is a big crane. It's known as a Titan crane. The crane was one of the must have been the last part of the construction which was added to the docks, because I believe it was opened in 1917, and because of the First World War was going on, there was no ceremony or nothing about it, and it's become now one of Greenock's landmarks. It can be seen from all over. I can remember as a boy, used to see engines getting lifted into it from ships bound for all over the world, and then used to see big locomotives getting built and lifted in, going to ships, going to India and places like all over the world. This is where the bridge used to be, which made the dock tidal. When it was opened, you had to either walk round the dock or go under the tunnel. The tunnel was just behind you there. There was 100 and odd stairs down, along a long tunnel, and 100 and odd stairs up. It carried a series of pipes and cables, just a arched tunnel, tiled with white kind of ceramic tiles, all in wooden duckboards when you got onto the bottom of the tunnel. I remember one night I come down about 1 o'clock in the morning, a young boy about maybe 20, said, I'm not walking round the dock, I'll go through the tunnel. I wasn't frightened or anything, because you were used to it at that time, you know. I come down one night and got to the bottom, and because the training centre was over there, a lot of the boys in the train used to break the lights and things like that. So you just were walking down along a dark tunnel. And as I walked along the bottom of the tunnel, I put my hand out to feel along the wall, and as I put my hand out, and I touched a body, I ran up the other stairs about 2 or 3 at a time, and when I got up there at the top of the stairs, I turned round and looked, and there was another boy running up the other side. Obviously he'd come off of one of the ships. He'd come down, not a word was spoken, just touched each other in fright, and ran, he ran and I ran up the other side. That was it. Moved into the Garville house when I was 2 months old with my mother and father. My father had a job with the Greenock Harbour Trust. That's how he got the house. When we moved into the house, obviously there were 4 families in the house. One was the harbour master, one was the engineer who opened the bridge, and the other chap was a big Titan crane operator. And we were the last residents in it, and we left in 1976. Up the main stairs, and you had a big kind of reception hall, and then there were a big spiral staircase led up to our top flat, the 2 houses that were in the top flat, and then you could go down the stair into the cellarage area. Then Clyde just poured it up, and that was it. I think they had plans for it, but whether they were going to try and knock it down or use the land, I don't know. At that time, I think they were going to develop the docks more, things like that, you know, but everything else, it fell through, you know. All of a sudden, it was an hours of darkness. Knock it down. Nobody could complain about it. Nobody, I never seen any petition to say we're ready to knock the building down or anything like that. It was all done very secretively, to say the least. It was sad that it's an old building was just knocked down without even any consideration of trying to preserve it or do anything with it.
What we have here is a bottle of Irish whiskey that was found at the Garville House in the 1960s when the chimney was coming down, and alongside it was a set of children's shoes. This would suggest to me that it was part of a tradition of Masonic ritual, if you like, where you had a topping out ceremony where everyone got a drink, and to ward off evil spirits and the devil, you put in a pair of children's shoes. Not sure the reasons why, it's probably connected with witchcraft or something, but it was to ward off the evil. So, an interesting find, and it's a part of the rich history of buildings in Inverclyde, especially the Garville House.
The men of the Garville have built a wee memorial garden in its place. A memorial to the house and to the men who have since departed and used to work in the docks. As I come in the gate there, I just noticed that's one of the first ships I ever worked on when I was a young apprentice joiner. It used to be called the MV Columba. It's a Calmac vessel. It's now obviously the Hebridean Princess. Our job every year was to scrape the handrails and then so that the painters could re-varnish them all again. So it just shows you, it stood the strength of time better than what I have. Hopefully this will be my last contract before I retire. That will end with 50 years working between here and Upper Clyde in shipbuilding industry. I've enjoyed my working life, and I've worked for 50 years, so I think I'm enjoying tail break, you know. It's alright for these people saying what people work on to their 70. If you've had 50 years in shipbuilding, I don't care what you say, you only need to look in the yard and look at guys at 60 and that. You can tell they're all getting stiffer, slower. If you've had a hard life if you've worked in the yard for 50 years, you know. So I'm looking forward to retirement.